Hey Broncos country, this is George Paton, and I'm excited to be the general manager of the Denver Broncos. With a great fan base and winning tradition, me and my family are fired up to join the Denver community. Look forward to getting to work and seeing you soon. Thank you.
Hey everybody. All right. Good job. You're here. That's Good Broncos podcast. We got a new general manager here in Denver, George Paton. I would say his first order of business is to demand that he be called Paton, and he demand that every player and or coach in their press conference by throwing up the peace sign, just as he did in his opening remarks as new Broncos GM. I'm Brandon Perna here with Will Keys. We actually have some big news to dive into today. Today's podcast brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. So use code DNVR when you sign up to take advantage of their can't-miss offers. And also, Will, I made a huge announcement today on my main YouTube channel, That's Good Sports. I said that if I get 500 new Patreon subscribers, so this affects both of us, if I get 500 new ones by the end of January, I will let my wife give me a mullet. And I will live stream it happening. So far we've got about 4 new ones. We're close. We're just 495 new patrons away. The goal is 1,203 patrons by the end of January. I really need a haircut, and somebody said I should shave a mullet, and I was like, well, I'm not going to do that unless I can capitalize on it financially.
Good call. I like the business instincts there. I too need a haircut. Should be able to get one soon. I think they're opening back up. But does your wife have any experience giving mullets, or would this just be, kind of a shot in the dark here?
Yeah, she tells me she can cut hair, but she's never done it. So
seems like one of those things where everybody has confidence going into it, and they figure out like 2 minutes in, it's a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah. No, I'm prepared to go buzzed up top, and then just leave it all. Maybe some zigzags on the side. We'll see.
Yeah, you guys heard it. Just 496 patrons to go.
Yep. But all right, we've got a lot to dive into today. I'll have an interview coming up, another round with Dan Mitchell from Bills Mafia tomorrow. Talk some more Bills. Today, though, I wasn't sure we were going to get a new GM today, but luckily we record and post these on Wednesdays, and the Broncos were like, this is the time to do it. These guys are going to bring out the info that nobody else does. So George Paton, damn it, this is going to be an ongoing.
Here's what he's got to do. He either has to lean into being George Paton and add an extra T, or he's got to be George Paton and he's got to insert a Y into there.
Yeah,
I don't like the half measure.
No, here's the thing too. There's too many ways to say spell Peyton. You can spell it Peyton, Payton, and now Paton. Like, what kind of rules are we living by in this? No wonder this country is so divided. We can't even agree on how to spell a simple fucking name. And we're supposed to expect our elected leaders to unify us? So,
I mean, someone in the comments spelled your name Purna, which should be
that's fucking dick.
Might be a good name for your cat, but other than that, it's really not that hard to spell.
Yeah, that was from the Wild Card Weekend recap video, and the guy was just like, "Been watching this channel for a long time. The writing's gotten worse this was the least funny episode I've seen of Perna's, spelled Purna. Something just really attacked our writing.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It's a video. We brought in Adam from 5 Points. We had Tom Grossi. We had Urinating Tree. And that's the video the guy decides to shit on. Said there was no comedy in there. And honestly, I thought there were a couple good bits. I thought the young Sheldon explains things were funny. I thought Tom Grossi was really funny. I thought Urinating Tree just being completely devastated about his Steelers having their asses handed to him. Funny.
It's great. Not Patriots fans, them too, but Steelers fans are really treating this like the end of the world.
Yeah, they're about to
and it's really nice because they haven't bottomed out in so long, and they we don't talk about how like charmed their existence is.
Yeah, they're a historically great franchise who's been good since the fucking 70s.
Yeah, they hit like one lull, and it was at the end of the Chuck Noll era, right before Bill Cowher came in and took them to a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
in the 90s.
They've
been good.
They've had 6 Super Bowl wins, right?
Yep.
Was the Cardinals won? That was before the 2010s. Okay, so they lost after the 2010s to Aaron Rodgers, but they got 2 in the aughts, right?
Yep.
20 aughts.
Yep. The refs gave them Super Bowl 40.
Yeah, so they've if I felt the same way about the Steelers as I do the Patriots, this would feel really, really good. I don't like Ben Roethlisberger, so seeing him cry, I thought was very funny. And you can call me a child for laughing at a grown man crying. I think it just depends on the person, Yeah.
Blake Bortles sheds a tear, and I will shed a tear too in solidarity. Ben Roethlisberger starts crying, I will point and laugh at him. Paxton Lynch starts crying on the sideline, and I'll start crying for a different reason.
Yeah,
that's just how it goes.
Today we explore all the reasons men cry. But this Ben played just a horrific game too in the playoffs.
Awful, awful.
It was. So before we talk about Georgie here, our boy Georgie, when you saw so I missed the opening play for the Steelers.
I did too. I came in at like 14:30. I was like, I'm fine. Nothing's going to happen. I was wrong.
We were sitting down to eat dinner. We've got a baby going, My wife had like some cartoon singing shit on for the baby. And she tried to pull a fast one on me and sneak over to Jeopardy because we like to watch Jeopardy when dinner's on. I was like, nah.
Not on a Sunday.
Like, there's playoff football on. We go to it. I see it's like 14:30. I did not see that the score was already 7-0. And there was a kickoff happening. And I started to get confused. I was like, wait, why are they kicking off and 20 seconds has already happened? Not realizing there was points on the board. And then I saw what happened. I got on Twitter for clarity because, there's just a lot going on. And I was like, oh shit.
We've seen this before.
We have seen this before. And I legitimately, as much as I wanted to see the Browns win, I automatically just felt bad for Steelers fans because the worst feeling is when you're in a big game and the first play is a complete disaster. Like, it just made me remember that happening to the Broncos and just trying to justify that things were going to be okay from the first play. Not a fun place to be in as a football fan.
It brought back a lot of trauma, I think, that I had almost successfully repressed about that game. Theirs was a touchdown. Ours was a safety. However, Ours was in the Super Bowl.
Worse.
Theirs was in the wild card round with no fans or anything. Theirs was against the Cleveland Browns. Ours was against probably one of the best teams in the last 10 years. So you can debate which one was worse.
Yeah.
I think ours was worse because I was a part of it. I still like have this weird feeling about that game where it just feels like such a blur, and it didn't even feel real because it's like, when does this game start? When does the nightmare end, and when does the game actually start?
That's the most.
So we know how you feel, Steelers fans.
The most I drank after a game was after that Seahawks one. So, I tried to forget it. I haven't rewatched any of that Super Bowl, but somebody said that the Tebow loss was worse for them as a Steelers fan than this one to the Browns. So,
yeah, that's I can understand that. That must have been really embarrassing, I think.
Yeah.
The Browns, like, they're an 11-5 team.
Yep.
They're the Browns, but they were 11-5 and they've been good this year. So,
yeah, and I think
apparently they're about to get clapped.
Yeah, I think in a weird way they benefited from not just being an underdog in this game, but being such a huge underdog without their coach there that they were just
zero expectations
to play a good game. And thank God they got that 28-point lead because it got chipped away at like a I don't know, some sort of really fast working sculptor making a work of art that eventually would crumble because he chipped just a little too much.
Like Michelangelo's David.
Yeah.
Except
he accidentally at the very end, instead of completing it, he just chips off the dick. Just boom. Oh.
Maybe. Do you think the penis was originally supposed to be bigger, and then he accidentally chipped off like a couple inches at the end, and he's like, "Oh, well."
Nope. I just like to assume that's
penis.
what a big penis is.
You know how like people in general were just smaller back then?
Yeah. Everything was smaller.
You think penises were just smaller too? And he was depicting like one of the larger penises at the time?
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
Yeah. All right, that was the Renaissance 101.
Yeah. All right, here, I'm going to give you guys the information you want about this new Broncos GM. Okay, they're finalizing a 6-year deal with George Paton. Tom Pelissero says, Paton is one of the most universally respected personnel men in the NFL. Good sign for the Broncos. He spent 11 years with the Vikings as their assistant general manager. So basically the Dwight Schrute of the Vikings. 15 of the Vikings draft picks while he was there have turned into Pro Bowlers. Since 2009, the Broncos have had 7. And I will confirm that he was personally was most responsible for those 15 specifically.
But the other ones, not at all.
No, he didn't want any of the guys who were not Pro Bowlers for the Vikings.
No.
They have drafted a first-round quarterback twice, Christian Ponder. That's not something you want to brag about.
He was not involved.
Not involved with that. He did grab Teddy Bridgewater, low-key, good signing.
That was at the end of the first round. Yeah, that was
later in
him.
the draft. An injury. Maybe Teddy's still a Viking. Traded a first-round pick for quarterback Sam Bradford.
They were okay. To be fair, they were in a tough spot. Teddy Bridgewater just shattered his leg, essentially.
Yep.
He almost got Alex Smith there. That was a team that had made the playoffs the year before. He was being aggressive and had to make a move, had to get a quarterback. Sam Bradford was not bad in Minnesota. It was safe.
Sam Bradford's like
bad. He had to go for it.
He's one of the most interesting quarterbacks to think about. Like, what happens if he just stays healthy as a QB? Like a guy, he tore his ACL twice? He always got hurt.
Yep.
Anyway, also acquired Brett Favre via free agency, Kirk Cousins, who some people don't want to use Kirk Cousins as a positive example here, but guess who wanted Kirk Cousins? The Broncos. And guess who didn't even get a chance to sniff Kirk Cousins? The Broncos, because the Vikings got him, and Kirk Cousins, way better signing than Case Keenum.
I don't understand how – I really don't understand the Kirk Cousins hate. Like, it's fun to make fun of him, and he's had trouble in primetime games, no doubt about it. But when you look at the stats, like, all right, this is a guy who threw 35 touchdowns to 13 interceptions last year.
Imagine if those
if you drop him off in like – yeah, if you drop him off in like 2007, he's the MVP.
Yeah. Like, think about it like this. Jared Goff right now is in the playoffs behind 20 touchdowns and 13 picks. Yeah. Right?
Right.
So Cousins did 15 more tutties than that. Plus, the Vikings had a good running game. Like, Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. Is he a great quarterback? Not really, but it's a solid. It was an improvement. It hurt the Vikings.
Did you want him to stick with Case Keenum, or wait and take a quarterback at the end of the first round because they were picking like 29th or 30th that year?
They could have drafted Lamar Jackson. Was that year?
They could have. Yeah, I think they could have drafted Lamar Jackson. Maybe.
Yeah. That would have been the move.
I think Paton probably was about to do that, and then someone like Rick Spielman or Mike Zimmer probably talked him out of it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that's like. Okay, there's two big things I want to talk about with this, and one is what this means for Drew Lock, because I think it really muddies the waters on what the Broncos will do at the quarterback position, but also like. He was the assistant general manager with Minnesota, and he is highly regarded, but like, we don't know how much he had to do with anything the Vikings did on their best or worst personnel decisions, right? That's something maybe the Broncos get out of him in interview situations. Those are closed door sort of conversations that we'll never really have access to unless he opens himself up to saying like, in his introductory press conference, like, I made some mistakes in Minnesota. I drafted things.
Christian Ponder.
Yeah. But I also did this. I've learned, like, we're never going to know like how good he is or isn't right now. What we'll be able to base that on is what he does for the Broncos. And he's going to get a chance to start making a significant impact, it seems like, right away. And what maybe we'll learn. I don't think we'll learn anything about where he stands with Drew Lock next week in his press conference, because like, why would he reveal that? If he did reveal something, I would be a little nervous, but
yeah,
everything depends on what he thinks about Drew Lock, because he probably has the freedom right now to say he wants to pursue a free agent, or maybe target a guy in the draft, or maybe pursue a free agent to back up Drew Lock if you think that's what you need, and give Lock, another year before he really makes a decision on what to do there. So before with John Elway, I thought the Broncos probably would 100% lean on rolling with Drew Lock this season. Now, I would say I don't know. I have no clue what they're going to do.
I think my guess would be he's kind of going to read and react to how the offseason plays out.
Let's see what you have to do.
A quarterback that may or may not comes available, that changes the picture. If quarterbacks like that don't hit the open market, or a quarterback that he likes in the draft doesn't slip to number 9 or wherever they end up drafting, then you stick with Lock. It's still a bunch of variability. I think it's dumb to say with a guy like Drew Lock, who wasn't bad enough and isn't experienced enough to just straight up get rid of him. It's not like a Paxton Lynch situation where he's going to get cut. He's so bad he gets cut in the preseason. Like, that's never going to happen. it's all about the possibilities, and it's about what other teams do, really.
Yeah.
Unless, you like someone so much that you trade up to get them in the draft.
Right.
Possibility.
The Paxton Lynch thing, I just wanted to mention, Andrew Mason had a really funny tweet. Did you see it about Paxton Lynch?
Yeah, I did.
And it, like, I don't know, this is probably about as much, I feel like, shit talking as you'll get out of Andrew Mason, but he posted this photo of this, the Broncos, their training facility room, the back wall where you like walk out of the facility, there's a football mark really high up on the ceiling. And apparently it's from just a terrible Paxton Lynch throw that the mark's like still there, and like Mason recited when it happened. And just as an example of how bad Paxton Lynch could be at throwing the football sometimes. So yeah, Drew Lock's not that guy. And somebody we're going to have on to talk about Drew Lock with is Tim Jenkins, who posted a video about Drew Lock, went through some of Drew Lock's tape. And this was a video I suggested, so I am patting myself on the back here. But he was pointing out some of the things Drew Lock progressively got better at doing through this season. It's worth checking out, I think, if you're scared of Drew Lock and saying, like, he can't get better. Because I think he can, but again, what we're going to find out is what somebody who didn't draft Drew Lock, somebody who's not part of the organization, thinks of him, and somebody who might be given some reign to go after feasibly anybody that he wants. And he wasn't running for the Detroit Lions GM position. So my guess is that he decided to say no to Detroit because he would just bring Matthew Stafford to Denver.
Interesting. He could have joined the Lions and merely kept Stafford. He's currently on the roster.
That'd be too easy. That would be too easy.
Let's give himself a challenge.
Played against Matthew Stafford, or he didn't play against him, but he was in the same division. So if somebody's going to have a good read on him,
he general managed against him.
He assistant general managed against Matthew Stafford, Will.
It's like he was there on the field already.
This one I forgot. Okay, two things I forgot. One, he successfully traded Stefon Diggs and then drafted Justin Jefferson. Baller move right there.
Is a great move. That was a great move.
Also, brought in Yannick Ngakoue. Realized nothing was fixing that Vikings defense. Traded Yannick Ngakoue. Basically got everything he gave up to get Yannick Ngakoue back. Boom.
I love that move.
Yes, I do too.
That's like something you only see in the NBA or the MLB, but for some reason, just the front office guys don't think like that in the NFL yet, and it's unclear why. But I just like that. I like the creativity and the ability to be like, all right, it's not happening this year. Even though we just got this guy, like, let's flip him to a team that's on the verge of contention, that's going to give up just as much or more to get this guy in the middle of the season. And we come out either breaking even or with a little profit.
Yeah, because the thing with Yannick was going to be they would have to re-sign him at the end of the year to a long-term deal, all that shit, right? And like I tweeted about this, and this is my fault because a lot of my tweets are sarcastic jabs about shit. But I was genuinely serious about being impressed by this move that he made during the season. I believe we talked about it before at some point on this podcast. But yeah, you like a guy who, and again, we don't know if this was his idea, if this was all him, where it came from, but let's just assume it was, that they can maybe correct mistakes before they become mistakes. And they're willing to be creative and do things that aren't going to maybe hurt your team in the long run, or even give your team like just a better chance to maybe wiggle around that season to do something. So maybe before the trade deadline, Broncos are a little bit more interesting of a team next year, knowing that there's this kind of open-mindedness or flexibility.
Right.
So
it would have been like if Jarrell Casey had stayed healthy, but the team was still like 3-6, and they flipped Jarrell Casey to
the Packers,
a team that needed him, the Packers, and got like a 5th round pick for a 7th round investment.
And they would have it would also, Jarrell Casey's contract would have been up at the end of this season. And in order to keep him, the Broncos, we're going to have to pay him money. They weren't going to pay him anyway. So it's all that. But the Broncos have a GM, which is good. You got to have one of those.
You need one.
You need them. And there's going to be, outside of Drew Lock, he's going to have to figure out what he's going to do with Kareem Jackson, Von Miller, Jarrell Casey. You've got unrestricted free agents, Justin Simmons, Shelby Harris, DeMarcus Walker, Will Parks, DeMar Dotson, Elijah Wilkinson. And then restricted free agents, Philip Lindsay, AJ Johnson, Tim Patrick. So those are the guys we're going to be tracking through the off season.
Yep.
Obviously, Kareem Jackson, they can bring him back for 2021. It's under a club option essentially. 12.8 million cap hit, 2.8 million dead if they cut him. So basically, it's an out year for Kareem Jackson. It just depends on what they do there. Von Miller's in the final year of his contract. Just a dead cap hit of 4.2 million, 22 million if Von stays. Juwan James is the second biggest cap hit on the team at 13 million. And then if they cut him, it's 19 dead. So obviously I think they're going to keep him, but they've got to figure that out. And then Jarrell Casey, 0 dead if they move on from him, but he is under contract through 2022 at 12 and 13 million the next 2 seasons. So those guys aren't like free agents, but they're pieces the Broncos can do things with. And I wanted to start there and just kind of see if you had any thoughts on any of those situations.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's just not tied to those guys like we are. And like Elway is. And that's a good thing, I think, probably to switch it up and get someone who's going to be objective about it. And it's good. Like a few of those moves are going to hurt our feelings. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
A few of those moves, they're just going to hurt our feelings.
Yeah.
We're going to get upset if Philip Lindsay signs somewhere else. We're going to get upset if Tim Patrick leaves, even though that probably makes sense. It'd be better for him, and it'd probably make sense for the Broncos, who spent the 1st and 2nd on a wide receiver last year and are getting Cortland Sutton back. Simmons is tough. Simmons is tough because you got a situation too where, like GMs and coaches, they head for a new team, but they know so much about their old team that they like to bring a couple guys from there. And you've got Anthony Harris, who is an unrestricted free agent this year. He's 29 years old. So you got possibilities there. You got a backup plan maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe it's Pro Football Focus in their top 50 free agents. I think Anthony Harris is ranked just ahead of Justin Simmons. So if you're looking for the level that those guys are playing on, I think they're ranked 6th and then 7th overall. That's a guy, because of his relationship, maybe he's let's just bring him over. Even though I think he's going to be, I guess the only way you do that is if you can get him cheaper than you can get Justin Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a few more, really solid years of play out of him. But
I think I'd still rather have Simmons though.
Yeah, I would too. I think Simmons is younger. Justin Simmons is the most full package player you can ask for. He does everything well on the field. And he does everything right off the field. He's likable. He's important to the community. He wants to make a positive difference. He's a really, really good safety. He plays in coverage. He can tackle. Like, it's just you don't miss by signing him. Maybe you overpay like a couple $1 million now, but what the fuck does that mean in the long term?
Yeah, deals always end up being cheap by the back end of them. That's how it goes. And I think there's something to like having someone around that's been there for a while.
Yeah.
And has some longevity with the team.
And that you drafted.
Like this is right. Yeah. There's something to that. I don't know. Like, I don't have any evidence for this, and this is just total conjecture, but so the Browns played without Joel Bitonio last week against the Steelers, and he was the longest tenured player on the Browns. Basically, like, he was like the connection to Joe Thomas back there. And they finally make the playoffs. They get a wild card game, and he tests positive for COVID. He's not allowed to play. You think it meant something to the Browns to be like, all right, we have to win this game so Bitonio can get back and finally experience a playoff game for the first time. I think those things matter a little bit. Like, they're not the number one factor. Like, obviously there are times where you got to cut ties with the guy regardless of how well liked he is on the team or in the community. But I think it makes sense to keep around high character guys like that. And you got that on the flip side of the coin with Von Miller, who he's kind of hitting a low point for the second time in his career in terms of popularity. I don't know if we should get into that too much because I really don't want to speculate on something that may or may not be true. And at the same time, like, if it is true, it is words. It is just words at the end of the business day. Yeah. It's not, actions. It's a shitty thing to say, and you shouldn't do that. But as long as he's like not hurting anyone, it's best for us to stay out of people's personal lives. Yeah,
it's a weird line that you kind of just have to draw.
I get not putting him on Nickelodeon, however.
Oh, was he supposed to be on there?
He was supposed to host the pregame for Nickelodeon, and they're like, I don't know if we could do that anymore, Vaughn. With what you just said about kids.
Oh shit! I missed that.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, that's funny. Okay, here's a question. You got to keep Simmons or Von. You have to pick between one of the two.
Yeah. You
go Simmons or you go Miller?
I think it sucks to say this, but I'd probably go Simmons just because
I would too.
You've got two productive guys at edge rusher already. You could probably take one in the first round too if you want to. I just don't. It doesn't feel like there's any sort of depth there at safety, and there's no backup plan. Like, we saw the backup plan for a year, and it was Malik Reed and Bradley Chubb. And you drafted Chubb at 5th because knowing that this day would come, right? And Malik Reed, I think he led the team in sacks. Bradley Chubb was made a Pro Bowl this year. I think he'll be even better a year removed from injury too. See, I think Von Miller would make the team better next year for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I was looking at
it's a matter of trade-offs.
I was looking at okay, here we go. So Shaq Barrett's going to be a free agent, and that's obviously some guy. He's not some guy. It's a guy we've been following since he left Denver, right? Because he had that crazy season last year. This season, Shaq Barrett, 80 sacks, 80 total pressures. Bradley Chubb. Wait, did I say
8 sacks?
8 sacks, 80 total pressures. Bradley Chubb, 8 sacks, 57 total pressures. Von Miller, 2019, 9 sacks, 77 total pressures, and he missed 2 games. So, assuming Shaq Barrett's one phenomenal season is an outlier, that's the same production Von Miller was giving you before he got hurt, right? So
Yeah.
My point is that if Von Miller's healthy coming back, you're going to get good production out of him. And it's comparable to what maybe you can get on the free agent market for other edge rushers that I think you're going to have to like if you were going to pursue Shaq Barrett, and the Broncos are not, but if they're going to, they would overpay for Shaq Barrett to probably get similar production that they're going to get out of Von Miller, assuming Von Miller, plays like he did in 2019, which a lot of people felt like was a down year for Von Miller. So maybe there's potential he plays a little better, but like, I think if Von Miller comes back, he's good and it's impactful to the defense, but you're in this weird spot where what can you do with that cap space? If you do move on from him, can you get anything from him? And maybe you can make the team better without him. And I never thought I would say that, but it's just the way circumstances have led to this juncture with him, with his contract, with where the Broncos are at and a new direction they can be going. So
and that's how a new GM's going to look at it too.
Yeah.
He doesn't have those fond memories of, 2015 and Super Bowl 50. Yeah. He's just like, I doubt he's even met Von Miller yet. Like it's just a name on a spreadsheet at this point.
Yeah. And it's
to him, at least not to us, but to him.
Right. So it'll be interesting for sure. And
big decisions.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of decisions that, I don't know, they're going to feel, like you said, it's just going to hurt your feelings. If Von Miller's gone, it's going to suck.
I know. We might shed a tear.
When he got pissed off about the restructuring his deal, earlier this season when he was on 104.3 The Fan, like if he wants to stay, that's probably what he's going to have to do, though.
Right.
And I'm not saying he's not open.
Or another.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not open to that either, but like going back to that moment, that might be exactly what he has to do for the Broncos to keep him around.
Just please, for the love of God, go to an NFC team.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. That would be like if he went to Kansas City or something, some bullshit, weird way he ends up there, or I don't know.
Yeah, the Chiefs would find a way to fit him under the cap.
Yeah.
Derek Wolfe doesn't. Yeah, going to the Ravens doesn't really bother me.
No. You know what else doesn't bother me? DraftKings Sportsbook. While the holiday season may be over, the sports calendar is in full swing this week. From collegiate to professional sports, there's no shortage of action. And there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. If you haven't tried out DraftKings Sportsbook, what are you waiting for? To celebrate this year's football playoffs, DraftKings is giving all new players the chance to bet on any of this weekend's professional football games at 100-1 odds. That's right. All you have to do is bet $1 on any football game this weekend, and if your team wins, you cash $100. While we're all excited for football, let's not forget the 2021 basketball season has tipped off. So head to the app now and check out all of DraftKings daily odds boosts. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DNVR when you sign up to get 100-1 odds on any football game this weekend. That's code DNVR for new players to get a shot at $100 on any football action this weekend for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You got to be 21 or older. Colorado only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Got a tweet from Ben Albright per source. No decision regarding the Broncos QB position has been made.
Yeah, no shit.
Thank you.
I know where Ben's coming from because there's just like tons of speculation right now.
Yeah.
But of course a decision hasn't been made.
I think he might be a little too plugged in to the lowest common denominator on Twitter.
Ben?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he answers to the trolls.
Yeah, nobody that listens to this show, of course.
No,
That's the highest common denominator.
we got the
on Twitter.
high HCDF, highest
We got the
common
deep
denominator
thinkers.
fans. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got the deep thinkers. Interesting idea. That's something I was pondering. Restricted free agents, right? You've got Lindsey, AJ Johnson, Tim Patrick. How many of those
You
can
got
you
to keep
tender?
Johnson.
Yeah. Can you tender
Good
two?
question.
Or it's two, right? Can you use, or can you only use one of the round tenders? I don't know how the tenders work. Let's just pretend like
You have as many like tenders as you have draft picks. I don't know.
Like if you use a second round tender on a player, can you not use a second round tender on another player? Like I don't know how it works.
I would assume that's the case.
Okay.
A player with 3 accrued seasons and an expired contract, RFAs are free to negotiate and sign with any team, but the original team can offer them one of various qualifying offers, tenders that come with the right of first refusal and or draft pick compensation. That does not answer the question.
No. Like I know what a restricted free agent is. I just don't know how a team can use its tenders. But yes,
Yeah,
I think
this is
of those guys.
You got to submit them before March 18th. That doesn't help either.
Yeah. Alexander Johnson's your top restricted free agent. You need to bring back.
Yeah, I think so. He's really good, and he's so good that we kind of just like don't even talk about him.
Yeah, we talked about him early when like linebacker was kind of an issue, and then when it became
because he came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So
and we love osteoporosis bus driver.
Yep.
It's our favorite celebration.
Sure, he hates the name, but does that mean we'll stop calling him that? Mm-mm.
Hell no. It's not up for him to decide, unfortunately. Come on the show.
My question for you is we touched on this last week, but I saw it again when I was looking through information. Philip Lindsay, but free agent running back Aaron Jones is out there. Not saying the Broncos would pay for another running back like Aaron Jones, but Philip Lindsay's another guy who it's going to hurt to see the Broncos let go if they do. I mean, he's Mr. Colorado. But if there was one free agent running back that would make me feel better about it, it is 100% Aaron Jones. Is that just an obvious thing? Is that stupid to even say? Because he's just like Aaron Jones is a really good all-around back.
No, you're right. He is really good. And I think one of the things that held the Broncos back this year, and I don't know if it's a quarterback problem or a play calling problem or just like a philosophy thing, or maybe it's because Philip Lindsay's not a very good receiving back, is they just don't get as much production in the passing game from their running backs as most other teams. And you kind of want, like, you got to have a guy that can put up like at least 400 yards out of the backfield catching the football. And Philip Lindsay provides like close to zero value there.
Yeah, it's like that's the big flaw in his game. And it was also the other thing, like, and I know Lindsay had injuries throughout the season, right? Like once he got that turf toe, he was just never really 100%. But it was like when the Broncos adjusted their blocking schemes to match kind of Melvin Gordon's strengths. Melvin Gordon kept looking good, and it didn't seem like that sort of attack fit Philip Lindsay's running style.
Yeah, once they started pulling guards and kind of like, I don't know, getting a little more creative and moving guys around for the running game, it didn't feel like Lindsay. Or I don't know, maybe they just didn't call those plays for Lindsay because it felt like there were like 2 or 3 games where they're just like sending him right up the middle and he was hitting a brick wall after like 0 or 1 yard. Yeah, it's strange, because that's when Melvin Gordon got really good. And I think the run game overall got better just because they figured out what works with that team. And I think Munchak probably had a lot to do with that. I was like, these guys are athletic. You got to pull them and you got to move these guys. And we got to get creative here. And feels like Pat Shurmur finally listened. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bad idea, I think, to pay 2 running backs, like second contract.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. Just draft a guy.
I was cool doing that with Melvin Gordon last year because he did have Philip Lindsay for next to nothing. And Lindsay's not going to be super expensive, but I just don't think it's a great place to allocate a lot of your money. But Gordon was worth it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it just seems like the way the offense, and if the Broncos switch quarterbacks or something, then maybe you look at it different. But it feels like the way their offense runs now, Lindsey's less of a fit in it than he was before, which sucks to say.
But you should be able to take a guy like Philip Lindsay and you should be able to find packages that make him effective. That's totally right. If you can't get production out of a guy like Philip Lindsay and blame it on scheme, then you're not a good offensive coordinator.
Oh, I'll agree with that, Will. Here's the other thing that's interesting is Pat Shurmur, his best season as offensive coordinator, the one everybody points back to, he was in Minnesota with our new GM. They also moved on from Case Keenum after his best season. So the real question, if I could ask George Paton, general manager, generaling the Broncos, he's got to change it to Paton now that he's a general manager too. I mean, come on.
Just go hard one way or another. That's all I ask.
First question, what do you think of Pat Shurmur? Second question, what do you think of Drew Lock? Third question, do you watch my show? Because that's where you're going to get the hot tips on how to make the team better.
Mm.
And as long as he answers the first two seriously, I think we'll know all the questions that you and I really want answers to that we can't get right now.
Yeah, we're not going to have an answer on this until the quarterback thing is not going to be answered. No. Well, the Shurmur thing, we're not going to know until after next season, I don't think.
No, I think he's not going to come in and fire Pat Shurmur unless he really thought Shurmur was bad with Minnesota, which I doubt was the case.
We won't know one way or another about Drew Lock until after the draft, too.
Or during free agency. One of the two.
Yeah, we could, but his job won't be safe until
after the draft. And that's the thing, I feel like the best thing that can happen for the Broncos is that 4 quarterbacks go before they even pick, which some people are saying could happen, that 4 could go top 10.
They think Lawrence Fields, what's his name? Zach Wilson and Mac Jones?
Not Mac Jones.
Trey Lance.
The Dakota guy. Trey Lance. Yeah.
That one's
I think it's a stretch, but
Trey Lance one's a little sketchy to me.
Well, I think anybody after Trevor Lawrence is a little sketchy. But I would say, if you're not getting Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, then there's a really good argument to be made that none of those guys have done enough at the college level to convince you that they have more of an upside than Drew Lock continuing to develop.
Yeah, especially if you want to take a guy like Trey Lance. It's okay. He played he played for North Dakota. And he had a game or a season where he threw I don't know how many touchdowns, a ton of touchdowns, and not a single interception. But he only played one game this year. It's I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not risking my job over that guy.
Yeah,
he might be good. It's just not enough of a sample size.
My point is, if all those options are just gone by the time the Broncos pick at 9, that is the best situation for the Broncos, because then they can instantly probably get their top target for however they want to improve their defense. So I'm assuming it's going to be corner, but I a lot's going to happen before that. I think this hopefully will make the offseason a little more interesting for the Broncos in terms of, I don't know. I guess like it depends. Like as a new GM, do you want to come in and right away start making changes, or knowing that there might be an ownership change by next season, that there's a chance Elway's gone and Ellis is gone after this? Do you play it safe now and kind of wait for 2022 to be when you start to make drastic changes? Like, I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said about the 6-year deal and job security. And if he blows it up with Locke and that ends up being the wrong pick, or that's the wrong decision, and whoever he gets to replace him doesn't work out and maybe Locke flourishes elsewhere, that's going to be a huge like blemish on his early career as a GM. But if he rides it out with Locke and says, you guys already invested this much time, we should see this through until, at least the end of 3 seasons, and it doesn't work out, that's not on him, I don't think.
Yeah, that's fair.
Unless there's like a guy that falls to 9 and they pass on him and he ends up being really good, then that might be on him. But
yeah, that'd have to be like what, Zach Wilson falling to 9?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, if he's there, then all bets are off.
All bets off the table.
If he does fall to 9, I don't know, maybe you trade out. Maybe you can get some good trade power there. I don't know. I will say, like, I think if he did make a quarterback change via free agency, it will look good, at least in the short term. Because no matter how much I want to believe, like, Drew Lock showed some signs of getting better at some things, he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league for most of the year. So, like, if by statistical measures and by the Broncos not winning games, and I'm not saying all of it's his fault, but, like, if, I don't know, you brought in somebody crazy, Matthew Stafford, obviously would look better. But even if it's a lower key signing like Gardner Minshew, I think you're going to get better QB play maybe right away, and it looks good to start. And I don't know if that's the best answer in the long term, but I guess like hoping Drew Lock plays really, really good next year feels like a scary bet to me.
I don't know. I don't think he's going to play worse than this year.
No, I don't think he's going to play worse necessarily.
If you're betting on like a
there's
Josh
lots of things to say.
That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
But yeah, like what's an acceptable improvement to you for Drew Lock?
Not a losing season.
Yeah, but that's out of his hands, isn't it? Like we were just talking about it. Kirk Cousins threw 35 touchdowns and 13 picks, and they had a losing season.
Yeah, but they also had like a shitty defense.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what happens when half the team gets injured or opts
Yeah, that's
out.
the thing. There's just like there's so many X factors right now for the Broncos.
I feel like before the season, a lot of people were being like, "Yeah, this season it's kind of a wash. Like it shouldn't really decide a lot of people's futures because of extenuating circumstances." And now that we've made it through the season, people have forgotten that, and it's good to remind people that this season was
they
an
were
aberration.
Injured.
It's a total aberration.
It is. That's fair.
Not to twist everybody's mind into a pretzel again. It's just these things
I just want to be in the
deserve
playoffs.
a lot of complex thought. I totally agree. You know how fucking much it sucks.
Playoffs.
Not even, the playoffs would be great, but how much does it suck like the last 2 weeks of the season, knowing that most everybody is playing in a game that at least matters? Just to have a shot in the playoffs late in the season sounds like a lot of fun.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's enough. It's enough. This
Enough.
podcast is over.
Good
Thanks
night.
for listening. Good night and good luck.